It is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride, as well as we are now officially 3 games into the 2022 World Series. Dude, that crowd was nuts last night, huh?
They've shown up. I keep saying this. Like, I know crowds are going to be electric during the postseason, and there's been some good atmospheres, but nothing's rivaled Philadelphia. It just hasn't.
Nope.
They've been incredible the entire postseason, and the boys have been putting on a show for them. So it's easy for them to be incredible. I mean, they've won every single game at home, and things are just it's popping there, man.
It is popping. And last night, they blanked the Astros 7-0. 5 homers off of Lance McCullers. That is a World Series record given up by a single pitcher. And it got going in the first inning thanks to their reigning MVP.
McCullers to Harper. It's good. Right center field. Lightning strikes. 2-0 Phils.
Let's start with this before I ask the question. I've probably watched that sequence 20 times. John Smoltz, he gets railed on Twitter. I understand. He was on point last night with the whole thing, setting up the at-bat and then just taking it through. I thought it was a really cool moment for baseball. Didn't you?
When he hit that, I yelled inside my house. I screamed, and me and Teddy were watching the game, and he was just, you saw his eyes light up. I mean, it was a moment. Like, this is, it's becoming Bryce's moment. Like, if this goes the way that, Philly fans want it to go, I mean, this is like he's putting his stamp on Philly sports.
Well, and it gets to my bigger question. Has Harper's huge postseason changed the way some people view him? Not the two of us. I think the two of us, he could have gone 0 for 20 in the World Series. I still probably would have viewed him similarly to the way I did pre-World Series. But what do you think?
I think it has to change people's opinion on him if they go out and do win this thing. I mean, that's a lot of people look to that when they're saying, what have the greats done? Like what have you accomplished in this game? Sure, the personal accolades are great, but we're trying to bring that trophy home. And if Bryce does that, and in this way where he's carrying the team, I mean, yeah, it's going to change people's opinions. And you're right. Like, people that follow baseball understand like what a prodigy he is and has become and a legend. Like, we're watching right now in our game, we have some absolute legends playing. I think people need to appreciate it. We always talk about Shohei. We talk about Mike Trout, but we have to talk about Bryce Harper too. This guy is, for all intents and purposes, like, he's been our guy for what? 15 years?
Yeah.
Maybe longer. Like, we've put that pressure on him for this long, and he's showed up. And, this is, like I said, if he takes Philly all the way this year, he won't have to do anything for the rest of his career. And I think he'll be remembered as, a Philly great.
Well, I said this before, that for the longest time, he was always the guy that came up with Mike Trout, but was never Mike Trout. That's what the narrative was. And I never thought that was fair. I thought Bryce Harper was Bryce Harper. He's one of the few guys who, when he is getting ready to swing a baseball bat, you pretty much stop what you're doing. I mean, the shot last night from the right center field seats where he hits the home run is unreal, in part because it's Bryce Harper. I mean, it's cool to see a baseball coming at you, flying through the air for a World Series home run. But to have it come off the bat of Bryce Harper is just something special. There is something different. And, there are a few guys that we know by singular names in sports that have been on the tip of our tongue ever since they were teenagers, whether it's LeBron or Tiger. And Bryce is baseball's version of that. He is baseball. Do you have any idea how hard it is? I mean, in those sports, it's ridiculously difficult. But you go right from high school to the pros as an NBA player back then for LeBron. With Tiger, you have a 2-year pit stop at Stanford, but we were all waiting for him. He changed golf. Bryce goes and disappears for a little while in the minor leagues. And then, boom, he comes in that series in Los Angeles, making his rookie debut, hitting a double, the helmet's coming off. We were like, oh man, it's just different. It's different when he does things big.
It's different. I also don't want to put Harper on Mike Trout's level because Mike Trout has been just the better player, but I don't think that's like a shot at Bryce. And we're talking Mike Trout. We're talking about he could be the best baseball player of all time. But Bryce has been equally as impressive because I think, that pressure that he's had his whole life, and I've seen people, I've known other people that had to deal with this. You have these guys that are, anointed king when they're, teenagers or even before that. And it's difficult to live up to that billing. Bryce has lived up to it and more. Like, he is a superstar. And as far as stardom, I think he's even surpassed Mike Trout in that regard.
Oh yeah. Well, he has, yes.
But on the field play, the statistics are, we have to remind people that Trout is on a different level.
Yes, that is Mike Trout. By the way, if we play the game, you can only be either overrated or underrated. You can't be rated right. Where's Bryce Harper?
Oh, shoot. I think he is rated right. I mean, what else are we supposed to say? I don't think he's overrated. I think his stardom comes from his on-field play, but also his personality and the way he plays, the swings that he takes. Yes. And, he has some flair about him. So and he's a good looking dude and does all the right things. The guy is who you want him to be. But I'm not going to say he's overrated. I'm not going to say that.
I wouldn't either.
Yes, so if you're giving me those choices, I'll say underrated. I don't know.
I think probably 2 years ago you would have said overrated before second MVP and before this postseason run. That's just my guess, though. I don't know. Could be wrong. Okay. Great shot of Bryce Harper talking to Alec Boehm before Boehm laced the 1,000th home run in World Series history off of McCullers in the second inning. And so there was a lot of Twitterverse chat about whether or not McCullers was tipping his pitches and everything else. So he was asked about the conversation that Harper and Boehm had before the at-bat.
I think guys have conversations all the time, before at-bats and before innings and things like that. So, I'm not going to sit here and say anything like that. I got whooped. Yeah. End of story.
I love it how he finishes that. I got whooped. End of story. So first of all, do you think that he was tipping his pitches?
I poured over some video, and all the footage that I had was just what was ever on the broadcast. I didn't have all the angles, obviously, but from what I saw, there wasn't anything really definitive that you'd want to use in a World Series game. Now, do I think Bryce Harper might have saw something and tried to relay it to Boehm? Sure, but that happens all the time. It happens all the time when you're like, hey, I think I got something. And Boehm could have been like, okay, bro, I don't, whatever, I want it or I don't want it. These things happen all the time. For him to do it on the top step and call him over and have the broadcast on him, I think it made it more oh my gosh, something's going on. And I thought everyone was really quick to say he was tipping pitches. And there was a couple screenshots floating around Twitter, but that's not how you do it, people. And I've taught people better on this platform how to go about finding tips. Okay. It can't be just a screenshot and here's his leg kick on this one, leg kick on that. That's not how it goes, people. So from what I saw, I didn't see anything consistent enough, like I said, that you'd want to use in a game. And I don't even know, Bryce might have said he has something, but he could also just as easily have said, hey dude, it's spinning up there. You see it well. He's shook. Go do your thing. He could have been pumping him up like that, or anything. But I don't think that they were sitting on spin or a heater and to know what's coming. It just didn't seem like that to me, and I didn't see it myself.
Okay, I'll leave that to you. You're the major leaguer. I'm not. It's funny. I was having a conversation with my sons talking about what they're like. Oh yeah, you could see it. I'm like, guys, we don't know. As much as we know baseball as fans, we don't know. It could be the tip of a glove. It could be whatever it is. First of all, I want to give Lance McCullers a lot of credit. He stood in front of his locker and he didn't make one damn excuse. He didn't say anything other than they kicked my balls in. Basically, I thought that was great. It was very entertaining. If you haven't listened to the full thing, go find it somewhere on social media. It was well done on his part. I suppose the bigger question is, will this affect Lance McCullers if there's a Game 7 start on Sunday?
It could. You could change your pitch mix. And he started going to his changeup a little bit more there towards the end. I think they're going to pour over video today and probably last night to see if there was some stuff going on. So if I'm Lance McCullers Jr., like, you just take it in stride, understand you got beat by some bad pitches. Like, all those homers were like on not great pitches. So you think about that, like, let's figure my location out. Like, maybe we change up the repertoire a little bit. Let's make sure I'm not tipping. But I think he's confident enough, and it'll be in Houston if it does go to a Game 7, where it'll be a different type of ball game for him. I don't think you can expect 5 homers, 7 earned runs against Lance McCullers in a Game 7.
Yeah, one thing I think that they'll probably work on is pitch sequence. There were a couple of breakdowns I saw last night, Schwarber, where he threw like 4 straight changeups.
Yeah, and that's like not a pitch that he typically throws a ton. So he was trying anything last night.
Yeah, and then with Hoskins, it was like 4 or 5 straight sliders. So, I mean, you guys are such good hitters that if you see the same pitch consistently enough, and it's not the most well-executed pitch, it's going to be Gonzville in that park. So I think there will be some adjustments made. I think it's a question we'll have hopefully a chance to ask on Sunday, which means we get a Game 7 in this series, which I think personally would be very awesome. Today's episode of Baseball Today presented to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. It is the place to go if you want to purchase tickets. So if you've never used this app before, very simply, go to your phone right now, go to the App Store, download the SeatGeek app. It will help you find tickets for a World Series game if you want to go to Philly, or in Houston if we get back there, NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, if you're a concert goer. And sometimes maybe you're not familiar with the venues you want to go to. That's fine. SeatGeek is there to lend a helping hand. They actually have a rating scale, 0 to 10, on how cost-effective the tickets are that you're about to purchase. Like, they'll tell you, this might be the cheapest, but it's not the best deal. You might pay a little bit more here, but you are getting a fantastic deal. They actually color code them. Green, good; red, bad. And so if you go to the SeatGeek app today and use the code word JOHNBOY Playoffs, that is all one word in all caps, you're going to get 10% off of your SeatGeek order. That's something I did. I am going on Monday to the Cavs-Clippers game out here in Los Angeles. I think what I got are some excellent seats according to SeatGeek, well worth the dime that I'm paying, and I was able to save 10% on my order. So go do that today. Download the SeatGeek app on your phone. Get 10% off when you use the code word JOHNBOY Playoffs, all caps, all one word. So today, if you're fortunate enough to go to Game 4 in Philadelphia, you will see Game 1 starter going for the Phillies, Aaron Nola, on complete rest because of the rain out. And Christian Javier gets the ball for the first time for Houston. Javier has not given up a run as a starting pitcher since September 7th. That is 7 weeks ago and 5 starts without giving up a run. What is your confidence level in him tonight?
I mean, obviously you have to be pretty confident when you're coming into a start with those numbers, like you just said. I think this is going to be a little bit of a different atmosphere. We talked about how the crowd, can affect these games. I didn't think it was going to at these Astros, but then I saw the crowd and I saw, here's what I think about it. I don't want to say it affected the Astros in a negative way. It affected the Phillies in a positive way. I think that's the way you have to look at it. Like, they are absolutely taking from the crowd and using it on the field. Rhys Hoskins said it enough. I think so. That's a big part of it. I'm confident in him. He's got to keep the ball in the ballpark. He hasn't obviously given up any runs like you just mentioned, but he can be a little bit homer prone. And the Phillies, we've seen what they've been able to do. So you have to be able to keep them in the ballpark. I think the biggest thing, and this works for Javier as well as the entire Astros team, I think they got to score first. I think you got to score first and try to get some momentum right away. You don't want to be playing catch-up ball, against the Phillies with this home crowd. So I think that's very important for them in the top of the first to at least get some base runners on and maybe push one across, and that'll help their game on a whole level.
I'm extremely confident. I'm not confident to the point where he won't give up a run in that ballpark against this smoking hot lineup in Philadelphia. Might give up some runs. Now, last night, people will be quick to point out that I said Lance McCullers was going to shove. That didn't exactly work out great for me. And by the way, great call that you said Bohm would take him deep. Don't care that you didn't get the pitch right. I don't care. It was very good. It's not exactly Braves over the Astros in 6, but it was still pretty good on your part. Plufstradamus or whatever we called you on social media. Awesome job by you. But I do believe in Christian Javier. Maybe it's because I want to see the Astros win because I want to see a lengthy series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just the way I'm thinking about stuff. But I believe in him. You know, he has given up a run. He gave up a run against Seattle in the postseason as a reliever. So he has given up a run recently. It'll probably happen.
It'll be interesting to see how Dusty deploys the bullpen, because last night was people. I mean, I also agree that I see both sides to it. Like, I don't know if you want to let Lance face the top of that lineup the third time through. He gets Schwarber, obviously, for the third time. He takes him up top. The question that's been going on is, why wasn't anybody warm? He said after the game, I had no time to get anybody warm. Yes, you do. Like, you know, the top of the lineup's coming up. Like, just get somebody up throwing. It doesn't have to be like full bore, let's go double barrel, but like at least get somebody up and warm. And if Marsh gets that hit or somebody gets on base, like, I think he have to go. I understand I think it was 8 people in a row he got out, like 2 goose eggs. So he's looking good, but you know that third time is there. The numbers are there. Whatever you want to call it. If you don't like it during the regular season, fine. This ain't the fucking regular season. Like, you have to have somebody warm. I don't understand that.
How many times have we heard that from guys, from managers? I didn't have time to get somebody. Well, yep, you did. Yes, you did.
You did.
You just didn't think about it. You and your bench coach and your pitching coach didn't think about it. Just letting you know.
It's like they don't want the pitcher that's on the mound looking over his shoulder or something. But this isn't the regular season. Like, you should almost have people like ready to go every inning, dude. I don't know.
All right. So that gets us to our next question. Who's this a bigger game for tonight? Philadelphia and Houston. And the easy question is, well, of course, Houston, because they want to tie the series. I think it runs deeper than that.
Tough one. I know what you're trying to do here. You understand there's like a bullpen game coming for the Phillies, and if they lose this one, it could easily be 3-2 heading back to Houston, and that's daunting. So it's obviously important for both teams, but I think you're right. I think you have to have that momentum. If you're the Phillies, like, you're riding it, you're at home, like, you need to go take 2 of these games. You need to go take 2 of these games, and this is your best chance with the bullpen game coming tomorrow. Although the bullpen for the Phillies has been fantastic, and we keep talking about it like they're going to implode at any second, and they just haven't. But you have your ace on the mound tonight. You have momentum from the game before. The crowd's going to be amazing. Like, yeah, like you have to go get one of these next 2 games, and on paper, this one looks like the game to go get.
At the beginning of the series, I think we agreed that if Nola and Wheeler got 4 starts, that you would have to win 3 of those games. Isn't that what we said pretty much?
Yes, we did say that.
Okay. So they went 1-1 in Houston in their 2 starts. Nola was not great, but he kept him in the game long enough to where Philly could rally back from a 5-0 deficit. So he's got to pitch better tonight. Now, they got their win behind Ranger Suarez, who we haven't really even mentioned in 20 minutes on this show, did a amazing job.
Incredible.
5 shutout innings. I don't believe he walked anybody, gave up a couple of knocks. They only gave up 5 singles to the Astros all night long. So Ranger Suarez more than did his job. And so that's the one game where if the 2 of us were looking at 4 possible Nola Wheeler starts, they had to win 3 of them. Somebody else had to give them a gem. And that's the one they had last night. That's why it is imperative that if Philly's going to win this series, they got to get tonight. And Houston, I got to tell you, they probably, I'm not going to say feel comfortable against Aaron Nola because he's nasty, but they know they've had success against him now. They had success against him just a few days ago. They're not going to be scared. They're not going to sit there, well, wow, we weren't able to hit him in game 1. We only scratched across a run. Nope. You built a big lead against him. This is a huge first few innings for Aaron Nola and a huge opportunity for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think if you're Houston, you just say, let's get it back to our place, no matter what. If we're down, 3-2, if we're up 3-2, doesn't matter. Like, let's get it back to our place. That's what you're saying.
Now some people will say
if they go down 3-1, I mean,
yeah,
start to get a little nervous.
Yes.
Start to get a little tight out there. So they want this
agree.
game too. As much as Phillies need this game, I mean, this is a massive swing game.
Yes, it is. And I don't know.
I do think you're
Some
right.
people
I think
will say,
I
hey,
think it's more important for the Phillies. I really do.
I do too. And that's why we asked the question. Some people will say, well, what's the big deal? Washington went back to Houston in 2019 down 3-2, won games 6 and 7 in their crib. You're right. Definitely can happen. No question. But I think it's Philly fan. I think Philly fan knows this too. So baseball today also presented to you today by Muggsy, the most comfortable pair of jeans. You've heard me talk about it incessantly. I liked them so much. I got 2 pair. I got my charcoal gray. I got my regular classic blues. They expand with you, right? It's almost like you're wearing sweatpants. So if you're a few pounds over your desired weight destination, it's okay. You still deserve to look sexy. You still deserve to feel good in jeans. Sometimes those old jeans that you used to buy from other brands, you can't even get that button fixed unless you are just on point with your weight. If not, Muggsy says, it's okay. You're cool. You're all right. And here's the cool thing about Muggsy. They're having their biggest sale of the year, considered a very early access Black Friday sale. It began yesterday, November 1st. The entire site is up to 30% off all your favorites with free shipping and free returns as well. So this is your chance to go get an array of colors of jeans. They also have flannels, jackets, cashmere, holiday party pants, joggers, literally anything you need. You go to Muggsy.com, 30% off the entire site. That is ridiculous. Go do it today. Sale just started, the first of the month. Go. I am telling you, you will feel great about what you're wearing, expand your wardrobe, and you'll be like, yeah, this is the place to be. That's simple. Muggsy.com, 30% off. Before we get out of here, tip of the cap to Rhys Hoskins' wife. While he was busy hitting yet another bomb at the bank, she was busy filling up everybody's beer stein. That's right. There was a shot on social media of her buying beers for Philly fan. Now, do we applaud her? Does she have to go back tonight and buy beer again? How do we follow this up?
Yes to both questions. Of course, we applaud Jamie. She's a saint. And for her to kind of get the situation and go do that, I think is awesome. She understands. She's been talking to her husband about how this crowd has helped them in the postseason. So she's returning the favor. I think this is an awesome gesture. And you bet she's going to be back there. I don't know how, who got those beers and how she decided how she's going to hand them out, but I think there might be a bigger line for those. So she might need to bring that Amex. Get the platy out there, Rhys.
Where do you cut it off, by the way? If you're, you can't pay for the whole stadium. So what do we do?
Can you imagine? What's 50,000 times 16? Because that's what a beer costs at a game. I don't know. I don't know the backstory on this. Obviously saw the tweet and saw the pictures. It looks like about what does that look like? 24 beers?
Yeah, but I can't imagine that that's the only stuff right?
I don't know. 100. Let's just call it 100 tonight. That's easy. Rhys, you got that $1,600. You're good.
Now, Rhys made great money this year for a regular human being, 7.7 mil. It's not ridiculous baseball money. I imagine that's coming his way at some point. He's got another year of arbitration eligible. He'll get over 10 million, maybe closer to 15 next year. So, they have 2 more games there in Philly.
I think $1,600 is okay for him. He's all right.
Yeah, 1,600 is fine. I'm talking about, I think that tonight it's going to go way over that number. Just saying.
You know what a World Series bonus check is?
Oh yeah, they're good these days. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he can afford to just
way better than Super Bowl. When you go on a Super Bowl run for the teams, I remember telling some of the NFL players that I work with, I was like, yeah, the playoff share is close to $400,000. They're like, what? Yep. I said, and that share goes to everybody. What?
Yeah, and it could get even higher. It depends on how many you give out. I mean, there's a pool, and you give out how many you do.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Dan can tell us for our live show during the AMP app what the Rams got per playoff share last year. We'll see. Anyway, we are back at this again tomorrow. Latest episode of the Rose Rotation with now free agent reliever Trevor May is coming out. I think it might already be out. Maybe Robbie put it out. Very interesting conversation on how we don't want to tell fans how you should view your season. But the Mets won 101 games and got bounced very quickly in 3 games. Like, do you just dismiss that because there are such high expectations? Really fascinating conversation. And we also spent a lot of time about Aaron Judge, whether or not the booing will affect him when it comes to free agency. Trevor had some really interesting thoughts on this. Even though they're not in the same clubhouse, he did play in the same city. I get it, different fan base, but I thought it was a really good conversation. So there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. We are back at this again. Who wins tonight? Quickly.
I think the Phillies win tonight.
We get to 3-1. I agree, actually. I'm rooting for 2-2 because I want to get this thing definitely back to Houston. But I agree. I think Philly wins it. I think we could be talking about the end of the season on tomorrow's show. We'll see. Can't wait to have that happen for our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke and Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Thursday on Baseball Today.